Shut it down. We're done. We are done. This is not what I expected. There's a lesson here. That lesson keeps coming back. This is the Bitmain Antminer T21. One of the best Bitcoin miners in the world right now. This mining rig, we have undervolted or underclocked basically to hit 14 watts a terahash. That is next generation Bitcoin mining efficiency. I'm Drew Vosk. You're on the VoskCoin YouTube channel. Today we're digging deeper into the T21. We're gonna look at our Bitcoin mining profitability, and while this is a miner designed for three-phase electricity, a reminder on how you can run it on single phase, just like I am right now, making this one of the best bang for buck Bitcoin miners available in the game, easily an overlooked gem. Is earning passive income as simple as plugging in power and plugging in electricity and pasting your Bitcoin address? We'll answer that too. Right now I've got that mining rig mining in our pod, but I'm gonna move it over there to the VoskCoin immersion mining shed, where I also have my miner test bench set up. So we're gonna pluck it out of here. We're gonna check the real world power draw at the wall, and then we're gonna break down the mining profitability and just look at everything in between. But I'm gonna need two hands, so I gotta put the camera down. All right, I just installed another mining PDU. Oh man, this workbench top is still in great shape on this Husky workbench. And you know, we got it over the last year, but these don't stay stable at all. Oh, it killed my soul, but I drilled into it. I bolted it down so it's nice and secure. These things are sweet, and I've really enjoyed replacing all the old units I had on the farm with these. You can see with some deployments, like over there in the corner, I used 4. So it's running 2 miners on each of them in that 8 miner immersion deployment we have. It's got a built-in breaker on it, so I've already got it plugged in. And I get double stats here to make sure everything's always looking good, working right. So I'll get a power draw here at our limited edition VoskCoin meter box thing. I'll link that out if you want one. Also get a readout here, brand new single phase PDU. I should have tested it before I bolted it down, but I guess I'm just a madman. What I like to do is leave this loose, so it's pretty much covered and sealed, and then I'll just turn this on and off. It's better practice to turn it off at the breaker and then unhook your PSU on your mining rig. All right, so we need Ethernet cable. Still working through everything. Just ran that through. Back there we have some stuff. I got this little handy dandy notepad. All right, just grabbed a cable here. It's a C20 square piece on the back side. Looks like when you're stone facing somebody. And we got 2 C13s on the front. Those may look a little more typical to you. I'm gonna turn this thing off with the breaker on the PDU. Power cable has been inserted. I'll talk more about why this PSU cover doesn't fit quite right here in a second. I need to get a shorter cable as well, but you know, there's just always stuff to do. So let's turn this on. It's gonna kick on. So we got power, connections looking good right there. We see we have Ethernet. Okay, cool, nice. So we've got a data connection. What we did, let's talk about that real quick. Have a full video on modding it and shows it more in detail, kind of step by step. But what you do is you basically take off the attached 3-phase power supply that comes with the T21, which is this one, and it's in the new plugs type of the new S21s and the T21s, but that model in particular only runs on 3-phase electricity. And then we take an older S19 power supply, right? And so I got all this stuff from Altair. He distributes all these parts. He's based in the US. Coupon code VoskCoin, save some coin on this stuff and the mining PDU and whatever else, right? Do yourself a favor and support your boy. It means everything. But to get to the point before this thing really kicks up, right? We then take that power supply off. We put this one on. You gotta pop off this whole shroud here on the back, because it has what they call like the newer Antminer chastity belt. We see these fans start to kick up now. But yeah, I mean, basically you're swapping the power supply and also the power bus bars that connect it.
and then it runs. But you do need to utilize aftermarket firmware because the stock Bitmain firmware freaks out when you do that. We were hoping that this would fit, but it really doesn't fit that great. So this is off an S19. So T19 has changed the form factor. Maybe an S21 power supply cover would have fit better. This isn't exactly needed, but you don't want to leave the bus bar that's under here exposed because when this is on and you touch that, you could get shocked. It's dangerous, right? Don't try this at home, kids. So we see the miner starting to ramp up, pulling 5 amps of electricity, or about 1,150 watts. We are expecting this to pull 2,500 watts to 2,600 watts. That is what the firmware reported. And to be very precise, although I'm using brains and all these other immersion tanks that have a bunch of miners in here, Altair did this test with Luxor's firmware, so I just copy and pasted it, just making sure we get this up and operational before I start messing around and tinkering a bit too much. The downside to using the Luxor firmware, though, is a 2.8% fee, and then they have a 2.5% fee on their pool, which they do waive if you use their firmware, but basically, depending on your mining pool and using aftermarket firmware, you can lose 5% off the top of your mining profitability. Good news though, spoiler, this is a very profitable miner, and it's honestly a really impressive bang for buck. And I think people have been overlooking this due to the 3-phase issue. Some people have not. They've been ordering it in mass. But this thing underclocks nicely. So you can hear how loud it is in here now. There is an immersion pump that's kind of audible in here that you may hear. You may be picking up noise from this exhaust fan that we have in the immersion shed as well. And now the fans are starting to ramp up on the T21. But this is a good example of how you can underclock mining rigs and make them run pretty quietly. This is particularly useful, right, to heat your basement in the winter, to heat your garage, to heat your house just generally speaking, because at the end of the day, nobody really wants to hear, you know, the wah! God, I hate that sound, but I sure do hear it a lot. Huge shout out to Alexa, by the way. I just need to give her the proper props. She spent a lot of time today cleaning up the immersion shed, and then I came over here, and I know I pulled a little bit of weight. I helped a little bit. Finally getting this place put back together. If you watched a couple of our last videos, it looks like a bomb went off in here. You know, it's just go, 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 do this, change that. We just ran another circuit. We're stealing juice. It's funny now, later on, we're doing everything, we're doing something in reverse. We stole power from the immersion shed about a little less than a year ago to power the hard drive shed. Now we're stealing the excess juice that we have over there right now to power more mining rigs in the immersion shed. So we ran a 125 amp circuit from the immersion shed that is in here. And there's a 200 amp breaker in here. Now that I look at that and talk about it and think about it, we just did this, gosh, yesterday. But it's a 125 amp circuit. So maybe that's just gonna function as a switch. I know it's a 125 amp breaker on the backside. I need to do some research on that. We hear the miner's gotten much louder now. It is pulling a whopping 3,000 watts of electricity, or about 13 amps. And when we double check that with the mining PDU, it shows the same thing. Now we're up to 3,200 watts. And we're still rising. 3,314 amps. When will it stop? Someone stop this man. 3,400? It's over 9,000. Damn, this thing's pulling over 3,600 watts. 16 amps. 16 amps, 3,700 watts. This isn't even close to what it's supposed to be. Mining PDU is showing the same. It's going up towards 3,800. Okay, not good, not good. Not even fucking close to what I was told in the firmware. So, all right, welcome to the hard drive mining shit. Use your inside voice in here. So check this out. If you guys watch my videos and you see when I remote into the farm, this is what I'm remoting into. So we can see that it's reporting power usage of 2,750 watts. It's reporting 18 watts terahash or joules a terahash of efficiency estimated. We look at the frequency, 440 megahertz. Current voltage, 14.2. We're using a preset clock profile from them. It's one click under the default. This reduces the power consumption. This reduces the hash rate. Based on what Altair said in my initial conversations with him about doing this mod and running the T21 and particularly on single phase, he talked about bumping it down because the power consumption was just a little bit too high for the power supply. I thought that was weird in comparison to the results I was getting, because that power supply is made for Antminer S19s and XPs that consistently pull 3,300, 400 watts. You can overclock on those power supplies. You can do a lot. I hear those fans whirling in there. So it looks like we've got some consistent performance. 3750, 16 amp, and it ramps down a little bit, and then we'll watch it come back up. So I'm gonna leave this for 10, 15 minutes, just let it eat. And then we'll look at the data, we'll look at the power draw, we'll look at the hash rate. This is not what I expected. This is so far off from the reported power consumption in LuxOS. This still means it's a great miner for the money, but it's 50% worse on power draw than I thought it was. There's a lesson here. Don't trust, verify. That lesson keeps coming back. All right, the T21's been up for about 20 minutes. Should be plenty of time to gather data on Bitcoin miners. You can see this footage from 17 minutes. Man, a miner heats this thing up quick. 3,750 watts, 16 amps of electricity. It's a hot boy. And just like Gordon Ramsay said, shut the place down. Shut it down. We're done. We are done. Tomatoes. So you want to start earning passive income mining cryptocurrencies, and you want to know, where should I order from? Enter Coin Mining Central, a miner seller that's been in business for years, not months, with a lot of happy customers. We've got a link out in the video description below, but more importantly, we've got code VoskCoin to save some coin. It is the best coupon code you can possibly use on their site. It's the best deal. Yes, please use it to support us, but honestly, please, if nothing else, support yourself. All right, I got some data. Let's break it down. So we've got the T21 here on the Luxor mining pool for a couple reasons. The key reason is we are not paying the mining pool fee if we're using their firmware. It's a big deal. It's very hard to find their firmware price or their fee. I had to kind of dig around, and eventually I found it on this thread. I also confirmed it with Altair, and I could have reached out to Luxor too to try to get a response on that. But basically 2.8% of 180 terahash a second is 5 terahash a second. Right? I mean, that's a lot. If you end up paying like nearly 6% between high mining pool fees and then a firmware fee, I mean, you're losing like 10 terahash off the top. I don't like that. You can see my miner here. You can see the performance. You can see the 24-hour hash rate is 174 terahash a second. So we've been up, we've been running. We've got a clear day of mining profitability. We've got 178 terahash registered hash rate on that day, which equates to about 0.0000, yeah, 3 zeros, 28681, or about 28,681 Satoshis, micro unit of Bitcoin. That's about $18 with about 100% uptime. That's a good note that we're getting accurate mining profitability data there. If we look at, roughly about how much this thing is calculated to earn in 24 hours, this is projected to mine about $17.73. And if I was consuming 3,610 watts, which I clearly pretty much am, I would be paying about $8.66 in electricity. I actually find that I would be paying a little bit more given the power consumption. So solid like 8.73, let's call it that for easy math. Pretty easy math. So we should be clearing about $9 a day calculated on this. We look at our realized mining profitability. We came in slightly above that, but this is really close. Generally speaking, that's good data. We're making, about $9 a day in mining profitability on this currently. Here's a peek back into the miner. We are reportedly mining at 14 joules a terahash, which is the same as 14 watts a terahash. And just to break down those numbers for you, so we've got 2,500 watts divided by 180, and that gives us 14 joules a terahash. And realistically, we're consuming about 3,700 watts at 180. So we're really getting an efficiency rate of 20.5 joules a terahash, which is good. It's definitely good performance. And let me just show you another miner real quick for comparison. So this is an S19 XP that I've been having some problems with temperature wise. All that stuff aside, this is Brains OS and I've got it downclocked basically just on a power setting. So it's running efficient, it's running cooler, and it's less powerful. I'm consuming about 2,200 watts on this miner. Confirm that at the wall as well. And it's hashing at about 105 plus terahash a second. So I'm essentially getting 21 watts a terahash. So there's two key notes here for this comparison. We are getting approximately the same efficiency here. XP slightly worse. XP is a couple years old and sometimes can be had pretty cheap, especially with the newer miners out. But it's much less density, right? At 105 terahash a second. But it also has about 1/3 the electrical footprint. We come over here, right? And we already ran the numbers, so the dashboard isn't quite accurate. But in particular, I bring this up to just give you that comparison so you see the data, real world mining profitability, real world mining data. And remember, this is still at the 440 megahertz, 14.2 voltage setting. So yeah, out of the box, I really like the way LuxOS looks. Their LuxOS Commander tool was a good experience in my limited testing. I think their license fee, the way they basically hide it, is very poor business. I really dislike that. I mean, I looked through their docs and it's 2.8%, and you can punch in 2.8%. And it's not obvious anywhere that this is the fee. This is the current compatibility for their firmware, just for reference, if you're interested. Bitmain is actively selling the Bitmain Antminer, or they just call it straight up Bitcoin Miner T21. I almost like how bold and simple that is. So this device right now coming in somewhere between $3,000 to $4,400 before you pay a 25% tariff in the US. It boasts an efficiency rating of 19 joules a terahash out of the box with the main power supply that it's supposed to come with, or it does come with, and you have to operate that on 3-phase. The S21 Pro has again been released. Saw a recent video on that. 234 terahash, consuming only 3,510 watts, can be ran on single-phase electricity or 3-phase, of course, but shipping sometime between Q3 and Q4 2024, and a price between $4,400 and $6,400, with a higher efficiency rating at 15 joules a terahash. So again, I got this device from Altair, and he's the one who publicized swapping the power supply, and then he tested it with Luxor's firmware. So huge credit and respect to him for just pushing Bitcoin mining forward. Remember, lowering the barrier to entry, allowing more people to mine Bitcoin in different ways, or if you accidentally order this thinking that you can run it on single phase and then you realize you can't, instead of turning around and selling it and taking a loss or whatever else, you could just grab a $200 power supply, slap it on there, and you do need the power bars as well, and you're off to the races, right? You're mining. We are losing some of the efficiency. We have lost about 1.5 joules a terahash of efficiency. So there is no performance gain from doing this. There is a versatility gain from doing this. We can deploy this in different ways now. Looking at this price point from him, $34.50, right? And you also can punch in code VoskCoin to save some coin. It makes it one of the better bang for buck miners out there if you want to be mining Bitcoin. Processing everything as I kind of record this video. Another thing I guess that I should talk about, right, is we ran this number at 20.5 joules a terahash, but we are effectively mining at 175 due to the fee on the firmware, which drastically changes our efficiency. I mean, look, we're at 21 joules a terahash now, and if you take 3,700 divided by 180, isn't it crazy that just 5 terahash a second is making the difference here of that many additional watts spent per terahash of realized mining profitability. So this is essentially more in line with a late S19 series release using this S19 power supply and a firmware like this, but you're getting that density, you're getting good efficiency. It's not a bad play. It's really not, and it's interesting. So I think, people seldom really mess with Bitcoin miners and modify them, right? The other modified miner of note we've shown recently on the channel is the S19K Pro Erlacher edition, again out of Altair's house, shop, whatever, because that was modified to run on single phase. So you basically make the miner worse and downclock it, less profitable. The efficiency still remains pretty well. You kind of made it less powerful and whatever else, and there was a bit of a cost involved, but you can run it on single phase, 110, 120 volt. You can literally plug it in anywhere. Anybody can mine Bitcoin anywhere. And that's so advantageous for people that don't want to add an outlet, 240 voltage, circuit to their house. They're renting and they can't. They're at their friend's or parents' house, or their work's like, yeah, go ahead, plug it in. I don't care. But no, you're not ripping up the walls, adding a circuit or something. That's crazy. That's really cool. So watch out for our full video coming on that. We've had recent shorts on that posted recently as well. I think this really rounds up my thoughts on the Bitmain Antminer T21. I want to especially say the T21 is so much better than the T19 was and the T9 was. I don't really even remember the T17 offhand, but the T series has always been the worst version of the two from the Bitmain Bitcoin miners. There's the S series, which is just always better and more efficient and more powerful. And then there's the T series, which is always worse, less efficient, less powerful, but cheaper. Basically built for the mining farms with cheaper electricity. So at some point it's a better bang for buck. Or if you're just kind of getting one or two miners, maybe it's the miner that just simply fits your budget. The better miner does not always fit everyone's budget. So it's about finding the best miner for you, right? Obviously it's not financial miner advice. You do whatever you want to do, but I'm just kind of brainstorming the strategy and the thoughts and what goes into making these moves and making these plays. This has been a cool one. This has been a fun one, at least from my point of view, making the content and adding it to the VoskCoin mining farm. This was the piece that pushed us over 3 petahash a second, so that was really cool. That was really exciting. That was a big landmark milestone, I guess, for me. So hey, I'm Vosk here on the VoskCoin YouTube channel. This is Tail. She is our CCO, our Chief Cutie Officer here at the VoskCoin. I already said YouTube channel, VoskCoin YouTube channel. Anyway, she's way cooler than I am. Hope you subscribe, stick around. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about customizing the T21. Was this cool? Would you like to see more content like this? Or do you kind of view this as pointless and you don't really think that you would ever do this, nor anyone else?